Oh,
Let me put in my cares.
that's right. CARES 40, baby. That's what it is.
Let me put in cares 51. Yeah.
Cares
Like that.
42.
Yeah.
Cares, Cares 40.
Okay. Let's go.
38. You know that.
18 and 49.
Who cares?
Right.
Cares 40.
I know it feels good to be surrounded by family.
Look at that. Y'all are working it out.
Look, let's take the sweaty palms down. I just want everybody, please forgive me for the background. I'm currently in Baltimore at the Homeless Conference and Policy Symposium. And so, yeah, I'm here in this room.
We're glad to have you, Lisa. All right, y'all. So I would like to start by welcome everyone to the May webinar, where Lisa Bridson will be offering today's online seminar, Who Will Be Their Voice? My name is Haley Sherlock, and I am the Peer Workforce Coordinator at the Georgia Council for Recovery. But most importantly, I am a woman in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that it has been over 3 years since I had the desire to escape my reality using any mood or mind-altering substances. Today, because of my recovery, I get to be present for my 15-year-old son every day. I am a consistent daughter, a reliable sister, a loving aunt, a supportive friend, and I recently just married the love of my life this past September. I out about my recovery because I remember a time that the shame and stigma drowned out my own voice, but not today, because it is my own lived experience that allows me to support and educate others on the importance of multiple pathways to wellness and recovery.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'm glad that you were all able to make it here this evening. I'm going to address, just curious, if anybody have any accessibility issues. If so, please drop it in the chat and me or my coworker will make sure that it's taken care of. Awesome. So this will be an interactive online webinar. So we ask for your engagement and participation this evening. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Those who stay for the entirety will earn 1.5 CEU hours. And when submitting your CEUs, please keep up with the month, topic, and panelist. You will receive a certificate for this training no later than the end of next week from Alvin Cotton. And by the way, thanks for getting the early start on your CEUs. Please make sure that your Zoom name matches your real name so that you can get credit for being here. And we ask that you please remain muted throughout the entirety of this presentation unless called on. But you can put your questions in the chat and we will try our best to answer all the questions. I may mute you if I see that you're unmuted. Again, this will be an interactive webinar, so there will be plenty of opportunities to share your experience and ask any questions. First, let's do a poll. I'd like to see who's here. Give me 1 second and I'm going to this poll. So who's here today? All right. Got one more person, then I can show everybody else who's here. So as you can see, all of us are here and we are all CARES CPS ADs. Awesome. So Lisa Bridson is the author of Faded Tears. She resides here in Georgia with her amazing husband and 3 wonderful adult children and her first grandchild. Lisa is a woman in long-term recovery, and she became a peer support specialist utilizing life experiences to help bring hope and love to those in need. In 2021, she accepted the honors and responsibilities as becoming a recovery ambassador for the state of Georgia. So I give you Lisa.
Good evening, good evening. As Haley just said, my name is Lisa Bryson. I am a person in long-term recovery. And what that means for me, it's been many, many years since I haven't had to fake being myself. I never wanted to be Lisa. And today I'm able to be Lisa, and I'm able to show up for my community, give back to my community. I've taken so much, and I'm able to advocate for those that are not able to advocate for themselves. And so I just want to give you a little bit about my background and why this is so precious to me, and it's close to heart. Back in October, I did a live presentation in Puerto Rico for the National Harm Reduction Coalition, where I presented 3 days in a row, a panel, and then I did a presentation on the diary of a foster child. Foster care really, really was traumatizing for me. It was a very traumatic experience. I've been placed into foster care at the age of 5. My mother and my father were both substance abuse candidates that they both used, and I was born addicted to heroin. And so at the age of 5, I was taken from my mother. I was placed into foster care. And from 5, I don't remember it being that bad, except for I wanted my mother. But then at age 7 and 8 and 9, 10, 11 and 12, I started to be abused because of my behaviors, is what I was told. By the time I turned 7 years old, I'd been put on Librium. Librium is an anxiety drug. It's used to treat anxiety. The downside of it is it causes drowsiness, confusion, nausea. And so I was put on this drug and I would go to school, and I couldn't function. I couldn't function in school, and I didn't know what to say or how to say it. I didn't know why I was doing the things that I was doing. I was irritable. I was falling asleep. So needless to say, I would come home and I would get more beatings. And then they changed it from Librium to Halcyon. Halcyon is an anti-anxiety agent. It causes confusion, it causes drowsiness, and it causes hallucinations. But like I said, I didn't know what was going on. So at age 13, I found myself in the street. My mother died the day before my 13th birthday, and I was done with being beaten with extension cords. I was the oldest of 6. 4 of us was 2 children were her biological children, support the parents. And so they just moved us around. So there was no sibling bonding. We would just move from one family member to another. We were split up. My sister had gone somewhere else. My brothers was with another aunt, and I was with another aunt. So it went from the physical abuse to the mental abuse. And then I started hearing, oh, you're going to be a junkie, was the word that I heard, just like your mother. You're not going to be anything. You're a liar. You're this. And so that traveled with me throughout my whole life. But I knew that I was done with the beatings. So I ran away. They found me, the state of New York, and they put me in several different group homes. Each group home I'd gone to, I could feel that there was no care. I could tell that the staff was there. It was a 9 to 5, and after that, they were done. There was no support at all. And here I am at age 55, and this is still being done to children. I work for Mercy Care. I'm a case manager at Mercy Care. And while I don't work with youth, I often get called for youth. And I remember I encountered this young boy last month, and he was crying. And it just felt like me all over again. He had nowhere to go. He felt like nobody cared. He had been abandoned, neglected. by his mom. And he had started smoking meth. Well, we put him in one of the facilities, and he called me the next day and he said, Miss Lisa, the men are making passes at me. So I begged him, I said, okay, I'm gonna bring you a tablet tomorrow. You just go in your room, you plug into the Wi-Fi, and you just watch movies until I could find some type of permanent supportive housing for you. So he did that. But then the next day, it was a Friday, he called me back and he's crying, I mean, hysterical. And he says, Miss Lisa, I can't do this. I want to get high. I can't stay here. Another man has approached me. So at that point, I said, okay, what do? I go get him. I go and I find a hotel for him. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's got this big black bag with him. And I'm like, okay, well, he's got clothes. He's got some stuff in this bag. Lo and behold, we get inside the room. And I tell him, you can relax. You're safe. I'm going to order you something to eat. And go ahead and unpack your bag. Well, in that bag was just a blanket. There were no belongings. It was just a blanket. So in the US today, there are nearly 400,000 children living without permanent families and living in the foster care system. It's overwhelming for DFACS, and they have nowhere to put these children. They've started putting children in hotels that we've mostly, all of us may have read or not, but that's what's going on here. There are over 17,000 orphans have lost both parents and are living in orphanage on the streets around the world. And this is what most of them are saying. How will I make it? Does anyone care? Who am I? No one loves me. No one sees me. No one will listen. I wish I were dead. Statistics show that despite the promises of the foster care system, as of 2012, more than 58,000 children in the U.S. foster care system were placed in institutional group homes. 75% of them were young females, 33% were men. All of them were aged out of the system onto the welfare system. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you a video. It may be a little disturbing. It just shows how the foster care system was started. And I really wanted to share how the foster care system got started in general. So in 1636, Benjamin Eaton was the first foster child. We all know he was rich after that. But in 1853, children were being placed. There were 3 states that led the movement from Massachusetts. They began boarding children and taking families. There were several children were put into the streets. And as a result of that, they started to open up orphanages. Well, these children were taken from orphanage and they were servants until the state started stepping in, and then it became a ward of the state. So every document that I have of my childhood says that I am a ward of the state. It literally says that. So once the state started taking children, they started paying for children, and that created the foster parents, and which opened up a bigger problem because there were so many people, because there was a lot of money being paid to take care of these foster kids. So lots of people started jumping in and adopting children. Well, not adoption, because you don't get paid for adoption, but taking in foster children for the money, not for the love, not for the affection, not for the nourishment of the child, but purely for the money. And then back in the 60s, there was a heroin epidemic. That's when I entered the foster care system. There was a heroin epidemic, and instead of offering parents support and help, like today, we have all kinds of recovery centers. I've heard that they do try to keep the family together, but I don't see that. I don't see that at all. I see that we've labeled these youth as behavioral. Even if you listen to the news today, you will hear that most of Georgia's children with behavioral health are being placed in hotels. That is a myth. These are children. I don't believe in a bad child. There's a reason. There's a reason behind all of this. So we're going to move on to the next slide, which I believe is my video. And I want everybody to pay attention to the grandmother.
There are currently more than 400,000 children in foster care in the U.S. And while the pandemic has made life even more difficult for these vulnerable kids, many say the foster care system itself has been putting them at risk for decades. Special correspondent Charlene Hunter-Gault sat down with one former foster child who's now on a mission to fix the system by helping families stay together in the first place. It's part of our Race Matters series and Charlene's ongoing reporting on racism in America.
Ready for your popsicle?
Meet 61-year-old Valencia Polk.
Hold it right here.
Her 6 grandchildren came to live with her after Child Protective Services removed the children from their parents due to neglect allegations. It was a lot to take on, but the grandmother never thought twice. Then, after a few months, and without warning, all 6 of the children were taken from her and put in a foster home. She was never given a specific reason.
They told me, we're going to take the children. I cried, of course, they're my kids. Why are you going to take the kids? We don't think you can handle it. When they took them, they were sitting in the floor doing their homework, and they came and got them. Screaming and crying, please, please, help me, help me, help me. And then I had to leave. I said, I got to go back in the house because I just felt like I was going to fall on the ground.
Polk says the children were physically and verbally abused in foster care, adding they were dirty during supervised visits. The trauma led each of the children to start shutting down in different ways. 8-year-old BJ stopped doing his schoolwork.
He told me out of his own mouth, he said, I don't want to do better until I go home. That's what he told me. So that's what I'm dealing with. The 3-year-old that's in there, the boy wouldn't say nothing. They thought he was deaf and dumb. They were teaching him sign language. I told him, I said, he's not deaf and dumb. You broke him.
Then, just as suddenly as they were taken away, 3 of the children were given back to Polk, again without explanation. All this is avoidable trauma caused by a broken system. According to Six-Toe Council, it's cases like this one that led the 29-year-old former foster child to start a nonprofit called Think of Us. It collects these kinds of stories, brings them to Washington, and advocates for change that would help families like the Polks stay together. On this night, Council visited the Polks with Valerie Jackson of Monarch Family Services, the child placing agency helping Polk obtain permanent guardianship.
This is how we find out, is by talking to real human beings.
Like, we have to hear from all sides.
I met Six-Toe Council near the Polk home in Houston, Texas, to hear more about his ideas on what needs to change. Ideas fueled equally by his own traumatic childhood.
Just how typical is what we've just seen?
This is a story that we see over and over and over. And all the time, we see these small barriers as like a deposit for an apartment or the need for more food being the barrier that actually blocks families from staying together, or these technicalities that a family might need to be licensed to take care of their children, their relatives.
Yeah, but even in your own life, I mean, you're now 29, and you've had this experience, like, in a way, like this family you were 11 months old. What was that like?
Unfortunately, my mother couldn't take care of us because of her drug addiction. And by the age of 9, I was adopted, and it was a pretty abusive and racist adoption.
What do you mean?
I was placed with a Puerto Rican white-looking woman who, while the light-skinned children got to go to a private school, she told me because I was Black, I would have to go to a public school. And I would experience different types of abuses based on who I was. And so by 13, found myself couch surfing and trying to prove to the agency what was going on. But it was this tall, Black-looking kid against this white, short-looking Puerto Rican woman. And I wasn't believed for a very long time until I started to record the abuse.
And you came up with solution by watching what is one of my favorite shows, Law and Order.
Yeah, so it was one day I was watching Law and Order, and that was the moment where I realized I had to find evidence. I had to build evidence. So after that, I was able to be put back into foster care.
What was it like in those foster homes?
It was a roller coaster. So fostering is a calling, and some people are called to do the work, and some people, really see the mutual benefit of being able to survive, leveraging that stipend that they get from the government.
It was only after he aged out of the system at 23 that counsel discovered he had family members less than 60 miles away who would have taken him in. But he says they were never contacted.
We see this still happening today. But what is encouraging is that we're also seeing a lot of movement around making it better. There have been laws that have been passed in the last 3 years that people are really working hard to change this.
How much of it do you think is about race? Does it happen to all children, regardless of color, or is there a disproportionate impact if you're a person of color?
So what we know right now is that 53% of all Black families will experience a child abuse investigation. 10% of all Black children will experience foster care. That is twice the rate of white children. And so what we see is an over-surveillance of child welfare in communities that are poor. I think when you think of foster care, you think of child welfare, you think of folks who have probably been physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally abused. But 64% of the cases actually have to do with neglect issues that are coming from poverty, right? The lights, water are not running, not enough food. So we created a system that was supposed to be about protecting children from abusers. But what we really have is the majority of the children in foster care are experiencing high poverty issues.
So how did you get involved in this program that you're working with now?
So I started Think of Us with the premise that we should be fixing the system, re-architecting it in a way that we address the core problems that are around it. And so I truly envision that right now we can move from being a system that is mainly focused on placing children with strangers, right? Foster parents that they don't know, that we can move that to a system that supports grandma, uncle, cousins, people that the children already know and that are already related to, and figure out how do we support them in taking them in. Right now, only 33% of children are actually placed with a relative.
Where are the rest of them? In group homes?
We see that they're in foster homes and group homes. And the difference that we're also seeing here is that when they are placed with a relative, that states are not supporting those families the same way that they would support a foster parent. On average, a foster parent gets about $800 in reimbursement a month for a child. But for many states, they provide no type of support or very little support to an actual grandparent or aunt and uncle who's taken them in.
I've seen you say that despite all of the division that we see politically these days, you've got some cooperation between the parties on this.
One of the things that I'm so encouraged by on child welfare particularly is that it is a bipartisan issue. But I think we need to go even further, right? We have a lot of agreement around foster care, But sometimes we think differently about kinship care. The idea when grandma takes in her grandchildren that she should just do that. And we need to shift our thinking to say, no, we should support grandma in being able to make sure that grandma has all the tools and resources that we would give a foster parent to keep that family together.
So what keeps you going? What makes you hopeful? You've used that word, so what is it?
I'm very hopeful because at the basis of what's happening right now, the money's changing in child welfare, what can be financed, the rules are changing in child welfare. But what I really want people to know is that this is an opportunity for us to ensure that children and young people get families and that we grow up with families and that every child should be able to feel someone who loves them past a contractual agreement. And this is the opportunity where we get to do that.
And you're hopeful that we can do this?
I'm confident that we can do this.
Well, Sixto cancel. You make me hopeful just listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to pause it there and say, if the goal of providing children with a new home is to be able to give them a new start, then we are failing many kids today. You can't just take a child from their home and then place them in a new home and expect them to thrive. This is where social workers come in. This is what most of us would say, oh, there's DFAC workers, there's case workers, there's social workers. But social workers can only provide as much support as they're given and the resources that exist in that community. If no resources exist, then there's nothing that a social worker can do. That's where the community comes in at. And that's where, as a community, we can start to do better to help foster children. We need to be able to give them access to resources so that if an adoption isn't available, which adoption is extinct right now. Adoptions are extinct for older youth. Now, maybe little babies, maybe on up to 4, but for our teenage youth that are at risk for substance abuse disorders, it does not exist at all. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. What happens at 18? I mean, at 18, I didn't feel like I was an adult. I was in the street. I was making reckless decisions. I was destroying my life. I was basically surviving. But what happens at 18?
We would like to get to 100% on this poll question, and we're only at 79%. So if you could please give us your input for this poll question. And these are the results. Lisa, would you discuss any of these results? All right. Go ahead, Lisa.
So it's a huge problem. More than 23,000 children will age out of the foster care system every year. That number has nearly doubled since this report was done in 2022. After reaching the age of 18, 20% of the children who are in foster care will become instantly homeless. Only 1 out of every 2 foster children will age out of the system will have some kind of gainful employment by the time they turn 24. There's less than a 3% chance for children who age out of the foster care system to earn a college degree at any point in their life. Well, I proved that wrong. I just got my first bachelor's degree, and it was last year, but I'm 55, so I don't think that's all of my life, but it took me that long to feel confident, to be able to go back to school and to get a degree, plus other things in life, children and so forth. But 7 out of 10 girls who age out of the foster care system will become pregnant before the age of 21. The percentage of children who age out of the foster care system will suffer from direct effects of PTSD. 25%, that's a lot. Why PTSD? I'm sorry here. Let me plug this in. Post-traumatic disorders. So a lot of times these children are put out of the foster care system and they actually don't have medications. In the streets. And now we have no expanded Medicaid in the state of Georgia. So no child coming out of foster care is going to be eligible for Medicaid and refills of medication. And then how many of them are going to come in? Youth don't trust. I will tell you that. They do not trust very easily. And why don't they trust? Because they've been scarred. Basically, most of their life, if some of them, most of their life, some of them, most of their life at home, facing abuse, they learn to distrust. And so they're not quick to speak about what's going on. And if they were on any kind of medication, and this is the whole thing of embarrassment of medication. Tens of thousands of children in foster care were taken away from their parents due to extreme abuse. And as if you just heard, that young man was taken from one abusive situation and put into another. And I felt like the same thing with me growing up. You could have given my mother some kind of support, something. You just take children and you put them in foster care, and it's almost always the foster parents telling the truth. The child is lying. The child is not telling the truth. The child has all types of problems. So I'm going to move on to the next slide.
An extremely disturbing fact: foster kids may be severely over-medicated, possibly just because adults and doctors don't know what else to do with them. TJ Winnick explains how it happens.
1, 2. ABC News led the way, uncovering a disturbing and horrible secret. Tens of thousands of foster care children given antidepressant and antipsychotic drugs.
I was just a zombie.
I felt sad because no one would keep me or love me.
Children like 11-year-old Keontae, prescribed 12 medications over the course of 4 years for conditions doctors now say he didn't have.
I'm not ADHD, I'm just naughty. I am not bipolar at all.
This is footage of Keontae trying to come off those medications. And this is Keontae now. He's in honor classes at school, and he's been adopted.
It was like he didn't know how to be a real kid.
Today, he testified before Congress.
All I knew was that if I didn't take them like I was told to, I couldn't watch TV, play video games, or play with my toys.
Concurrent with the year-long ABC News investigation, the Government Accountability Office conducted their own research. They found in 5 states alone, out of 100,000 foster kids, 26,000 were on some form of psychotropic drugs.
When we read that foster kids are medicated up to 13 times more than other kids, is it because they are a more troubled population?
They are troubled, yeah. There's no question that foster kids can be troubled, very troubled, given what they've gone through. The answer isn't to always try to change their brain chemistry.
Especially alarming, the government report found that foster children less than 1 year old were nearly twice as likely to be prescribed psychiatric drugs as non-foster children. TJ Winnick, ABC News, New York. New
So we can just pause right there. We can see that this has been going on. Children being put out into the streets, children being medicated in the foster care system, and then it does have an effect when you're put in the street because you no longer have those medications. So then we start to self-medicate and look for ways that we can make ourselves heal. Now, alcohol is by far the most commonly abused substance abuse amongst teens and young adults. 1.19 million 12 to 17-year-olds reported binge drinking in the last month. This is real live data. 11.72 million 18 to 25-year-olds reported binge drinking in the last month. 7.10 million 12 to 20-year-olds reported drinking in the last month. Amongst them, 60.2 reported binge drinking during that period. 8th graders reported using alcohol at least twice. High school students who legitimately use prescription opioids are 33% more likely to misuse opioids than regular students, or more likely to misuse opioids after high school. 5.3% of 12th graders have abused opioids other than heroin at least once. 0.4% of 12th graders have abused heroin. In the past 4 years, 2.14% of 12th graders abused oxycodone, while at least 1.2% abused Vicodin. Is 18 an adult? Would anyone here say that 18 is an adult? Because most states, now there are some states that see 21 and foster care, but the state of Georgia, 18 is considered an adult.
All right, y'all, if we could try to get as close to 100% on this poll, right now we're at 74%. Is age 18 an adult? All right, we're at 84%. I'm gonna give y'all a couple more seconds, and then I'm going to end the poll. All right, so we had 21% said yes, 64% said no, and 14% said kind of.
Okay. When I asked that poll question, I guess I should have asked behind it, how many of us left home and had our own apartment and was doing well on our own at 18? Because I know for me at 18, I wasn't an adult, and I would think that most under the 18-year-olds that I've raised couldn't possibly make it in the streets by themselves without a struggle. 18-year-olds are normally at home with their parents or parent and usually have some support. When you're 18 in the street, that it doesn't look like that. Yeah, you're not able to get a job because you have no education. 9 times out of 10, if through the foster care system, you've most likely had to drop out of school unless you were really couch surfing with somebody that really had your back. I know for me, it was easier to find a drug than it was to find a bed at 13. No one was coming out offering me up, hey, I got a bed for you. I got a nice room at my house. You can come and stay here. But there were definitely, I was definitely being offered drugs. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Does anyone want to stop for some questions? Any questions?
Or does anybody have any experience? I know this is some really heavy information that Lisa is bringing to us this evening, and we want to kind of give y'all a chance to debrief if y'all have anything.
Hey, Drew will stick his hand up here for the moment. I just wanted to comment that I'm the adoptive parent of 2 special needs children out of foster care. And they've been disabled since birth. One is in a group home for people with severe disabilities. The other one is actually working and contributing to society. They're 25 years old today. The county where they came from is Fairfax County, Virginia, that has a social services desk in the NICU. We met Joshua when he was 76 days old in the NICU at Fairfax Hospital, not yet weighing 4 pounds. He was born to a mother who drank and was profoundly affected with fetal alcohol syndrome. So, I've seen it from the what we'll call the good, the bad, and the ugly over the last 26 years. And I agree with Lisa, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly out there, unfortunately. And I also agree that there's not enough people that are willing to say, if not me, who.
Drew, thank you. Thank you for sharing and thank you for stepping up.
Oh, let me raise my hand.
Tanya, you got something for us?
I'm Vanya.
Vanya, I apologize.
That's quite okay. Man, thank you, first of all, Lisa. Oh my gosh, I commend you. I salute you. And I'm getting emotional, man. Like, wow. Like, especially the medication part, right? Like you just drug the children up, man. Just like drug them up. Oh my God, that and I don't have that experience, and thank God that, someone stepped up for my baby when I was using it, you know what I'm saying? And thank God, man, like Sister, Sixton was sharing, like, if they could go with the families, why don't they help the families that, members it's crazy. This is crazy, Lisa, like, thank you. Like, it just touched my heart, man. So like, keep up the good work. And if there's anything I can do, man, I don't know if we can leave out information or what, man, but if there's anything I can do to help you, my sister, please, please let me know. It's just sad. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanna.
We're going to fight, Lisa. Vanya.
Oh, yeah, Vanya. Okay, I'm sorry, Vanya.
How about Denise? You can call me Denise if you want to. That's how I got Denise. Because
don't worry, I just wrote it down, so I'll make sure I pronounce it right. So I wrote it how I pronounce it, Vanya.
Thank you, love. I appreciate you, Lisa. Thank you too, John, for sharing. I appreciate that, you stepping up. Absolutely. It takes a lot of heart to do that, especially special needs. Wow.
All right, I've got Maya, Bernice, and then Sandra, and then we're going to move on and we'll have some more opportunity to talk after these 3 share. We'll move on to the next slide and then we'll have more time at the end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Haley. I was just going to say, Lisa, great work that you're doing. And I also wanted to just share that I actually started off in the field working with foster children, and would have to go to court, and I would see the families and see what they went through. And, you know, by me seeing the fact that, you know, the courts were basically separating the families and how much it affected the children, even being in a new place, because people that they knew, even though they were removed to an environment that would, you know, societal standards would say, okay, this is a better household because of the aesthetic. However, you know, the kids, you know, still, I mean, I had a lot of instances where kids would run away to try to get back to their original home and find their family. So eventually I stopped working on that side of the field in case management, and actually opened my own business to where we would work with the families or the mothers that the courts did not provide the resources to. And we actually started providing resources to those mothers and working with the families, with the mothers on an ongoing basis, and helping the courts reunite the child with their original family. So I think that nowadays, because there are so many kids in foster care, and then there's not enough placements either, that the courts are having to change their route of what they consider placement. It is unfortunate that some of the families still financially are, you know, that's the barrier, the financial aspect of like the other family members, like taking on, you know, larger families, like 4 to 5 kids at one time. However, there are more resources, or starting to be more resources that are able to assist those families.
Maya, we've lost you.
Okay.
Of the kids in foster care, and therefore
I'm sorry, Maya, I had to mute you. You're going in and out. Your audio is breaking up.
So Maya, that's honestly the truth that's going on now, is that the states have become so overwhelmed. But they started it. You know, you started taking people's children, not really giving it any kind of consideration. My story goes on to say that, you know, my first child, I was 19, and I had a foster family I thought I could go back to. I went to jail, and they took my daughter. When I came home from jail, I went there, and they were like, no, you can't come here. And that was so traumatic, because even though this is my foster family, they were huge. My foster family is big. And so that traumatized me even more. I just went back out and started using again, because this is all I know. You're the only family I know. Now you've taken my daughter, my child. That was all I ever wanted all my life, from the time I was, as far as back as I could remember. I wanted a family. I wanted my own room. You know, there was 6 of us. We did the 3 girls in one room and 3 boys in the other. I always got beat because I was the oldest. I never got hurt because I was the oldest. And I was by far claimed to be the worst. So I never got hurt. And here it is. I've got this child that I've always wanted all my life. And you take her, and never mind, nobody came to jail to see me, but you take her, and now you tell me I can't come see her. So in my brain, I just had to start thinking like, hey, this is hard. this is hard. And I went back to numbing, but nobody ever saw that as a problem.
All right, Lisa, I think we had two more people that had their hand raised that we were going to get to before we moved on, and Miss Bernice.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm Karis 40, and it's so ironic, Lisa. Thank you for that topic about these kids, because I just found out a week ago that I have 2 great grandchildren that's in foster care, and my daughter's grandkids, and the mother got killed, and they took the kids from because her mother didn't want them, and didn't nobody reach out to my daughter's side of the family to see if we wanted the kids. So, you know, I'm learning a lot, and I'm glad I'm on this webinar, you know, so I can learn more, you know, to help my daughter. My other daughter, who don't have no children, she is thinking about finding out where they are and try to foster care of them, because they'll be in with our family. And that's what we want. We want them to be with our family. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Bernice said, how old are they?
They 6 and 7.
Because they putting them in hotels.
Yeah. I've heard that from the news, you know, but I had no idea my great grandkids were in foster care, you know. And then my daughter told me that they learned how to steal from their mother, you know, so they learned a lot of bad habits from her. And I know that they took them in, you know, they took with them, you know, their behavior. But it's so sad about how they treat the kids and the medication that they give them, and the kids don't even have they don't even have what they say they have in order to give them all that medication, you know. So this is very important for me, and I thank you for presenting this webinar, Lisa.
Thank you, Ms. Bernice.
Thank you, Ms. Bernice. Sandra, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, so appreciate the topic. I work for a division called Family Treatment Court. And what that is I work with clients who have an open defects case whose kids have been removed due to substance abuse. And I have the privilege of working with their kids and the parents. So I really appreciate the topic that you have. You know, for me personally, I feel like DFACS has such a big turnaround that the kids do get lost. You know, there are some resources out there that with all the new DFACS workers coming on board because of the turnaround, they just don't know. You know, I had one client whose child got to the age of 18, and there's resources where she could have gone to college free, and she took advantage of that. And the caseworkers that are coming in today just don't have the overall knowledge. You know, they can go to school free, they can get housing free, but you got to have that caseworker that knows how to apply for all that. I'm fortunate, you know, I work in Athens, Clarke County, and the people that I work with DFACS, they have that knowledge, and especially the SAG that handles the DFACS cases. She advocates for that, but you know, also see the trauma from the kids, you know, because I do a class with the kids in my drug court that I do. We do a thing called Strengthening Families, and it's where the parents go to their lesson, and I get to teach the kids a 17-week lesson. And you know, it's trauma when they get removed, and it's trauma when they go home, and it's like, you know, it's kind of like the loss. So I have great empathy for that. And, you know, my job, you know, is, you know, I really try to work with my peers saying that, you know, your kids just want to come home, and, you know, you got to get it together. And there are good days when I'm sitting in a courtroom and parents get their kids back, but then there's sad days when I'm sitting in a courtroom and the parent just doesn't want to stop using, and the kid becomes a product of the system, and those are just sad days. And I do believe that there needs to be change in that area. And I'm always they say at work I'm always advocate the voice of the children. I try to do right with because I work with the parents and the kids, so I get the double whammy. I get the pain from the kids, and then I get the pain from the kids. And I just keep saying that, just keep staying clean, and everything will come together. But if you continue to use, everything's going to continue to fall apart. So at least it's a great topic. I appreciate you putting out your story there, and it's great to be at this class today. Thanks.
Thanks, Sandra. All right, Amanda, I know you had your hand raised. Are you okay with waiting till we're at the end, or do you have something you'd like to get out debrief now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear
you.
Oh gosh, hold on, y'all. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I'm on my phone because I just gotten off work, so I was in the webinar, and I could have waited to the end, but since I'm talking, I'll try to be fast. But Lisa, we were in CARES together, and we were partners, and I remember your dreams and the things you would share, and oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you and what you're doing, and I knew you were passionate about it happened, so I just want to say that. But second off, like, I've been chatting to you, but I was driving, so I couldn't say everything I wanted to say, but I cannot wait to catch up with you and connect. I worked for Georgia Council for Recovery, and when I met you, I was a NICU peer recovery coach, and so we would get referrals from the hospital. But now I'm a B Corps peer recovery coach, and that's called Building Communities of Recovery. So long story short, I just think you would love the work that we're doing, and I work with DFAC, not in the sense of sharing anything, but we're trying to make this go full circle to where DFAC's workers can learn that families can be back together, and that these moms, because I had a DFAC's case and I was blessed to have my mother-in-law have my kids, but I deal with a lot of peers, women that were in foster care, their children in foster care, but we do trainings. I've done trainings across the whole state, every region of DFAC's on recovery and how to reduce the stigma, and that you can get well, and I get to share my story amongst others. And just the partnership we have with Hall County, it's taken time, but we're able to go in there 3 times a year and train them on recovery and stigma, and share the raw stuff that I did and how I ran from DFACs, and people would tell me I'd never make it, but now I get to stand up and train. And there's so much I want to say, and I'm not going to keep going, but I just want you to know that this is one of the best webinars I've been on. It's interesting. I've heard a lot of stuff about foster care, and of course I had a DFAC's case, and I know a lot of children that are in hotels in Hall County, and I didn't even have to hear it on the news because I know it, because I hear it from caseworkers. And I want you to know, though, that there is hope. We're fighting the good fight to get things to change. And I'm seeing positive, and it's going to take a lot more work, but I just want you to know, I'm grateful for what you do. And I just need you to call me when you can. And I just want to fill you in on so much. And this is awesome. And you are amazing. And this is awesome. And I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. So Neil did, I did read in our last report that we do have some RCOs that have started working with DHS. And so we are moving. But I think our voices, we need to be a little louder. A lot of times we protest. I don't know about everybody here, but I protest. I march up and down the streets. I march for Black Lives Matter, abortion laws, you name it, I march for it. You name it, they're protesting about it. But I don't know, can anybody on here tell me that they have ever seen a protest for the states putting these children in the street like they are? I have never seen it. I just have not seen that. But we protest and we march for LGBTQ, Black Lives Matter, justice for all. But I've never seen anybody marching or protesting for children or even lifting up their voices. So I'm glad that that's in the making. I did see where Neil said some of our carers, oh Lord, I don't went way past. Okay. So the face of drug abuse is as diverse as people. Anyone can find themselves in a battle against drugs. From the girl next door to the cashier checking you out at the store. Drugs do not discriminate, but some people have a greater risk of drug abuse in comparison to others. One such group of people is that of homeless children that have aged out of foster care and youth that have run away. And this
All
is just
right,
some
y'all.
of the faces.
So we do have a poll question here. And so this is going to be about RCOs and addiction recovery support centers and can we help be the change? Awesome, we're at 84%. I'll leave it up for a few more seconds. All right, let's look at these results. So 45% said it is the change. 28% said, I hope so. And another 28% said, tell me how I can help. Awesome. Thank you for your input. Lisa?
Okay, so one of the ways that we can help is being a voice, checking out your community. We all know that opioid abuse is considered a national public health emergency. Overdose deaths due to opioids have increased 500% among 15 to 25-year-olds since 1999. That's a huge number. We all know that that's a huge incline. In the 21st century, opioid-related deaths were among this group age increased by at least 30% of foster children and homeless youth.
Would you like me to launch another poll for the outreach, Lisa?
Yes, because I'm running out of time here.
You got about 25 more minutes.
Okay.
So this one is again about the RCOs in the area and the addiction recovery support centers. Should they have outreach teams that visit communities they serve specifically to reach out, to go out to these hotels and find these 18-year-olds that are aging out of the foster care system and finding out what we can do to support them, whether it is in the prevention stages or in seeking their treatment, recovery. We're at 72%. Try to get as close to 100% as we can. Give y'all a few more seconds. All right, I'll share these results with y'all. So 72% said that RCAs and addiction recovery support centers should have the outreach teams that visit communities. 24% said that their local RCO or addiction recovery support center already does have these outreach teams. And then 3% said they don't have the staff. And Susan has her hand raised.
Hi, yes, my name is Susan. I work for Stand Inc. Home of the Door, where the CAP Open Opportunities for Recovery. I'm CARES 51. And I guess I answered that question because we do outreach on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but I would love, and I'm point on outreach, I would love to do the outreach for, because I didn't even know this was happening with the youth, but I've always wanted to help the youth with me having small children myself. And I have a 21-year-old who's I'm in jail right now, but I wish I could, I hope to help. I want to be a part of this. So whatever I need to do or bring back to my team, I just need some information because we can make it happen. That's all I want to say.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Susan.
Susan.
You have any more questions or anybody want to say something? Okay.
I do. I'm Vanya again. I just want to say thank you, Susan. And my RCO that I used to work for, I work for another agency now. That's not an RCO, but I had the honor and the privilege, Haley and Lisa, to actually talk to about 150 defects workers in Gwinnett County back last year. They had a big thing for us to personally come out and share our story and what we do as an RCO. It was unbelievable, and the questions that were asked. So I'm proud to say that I work for an agency that does reach out to DFACs and try to stop, like Sandra was saying, try to stop it and nip it in the bud before they get taken from the mother. You know what I'm saying? And to understand what addiction is and the stigma, like Sandra was sharing. So I'm greatly appreciative of that. I got to tell my story. Like I told them, I don't have a DFAC story, but I damn well could have had one, you know, and I know a lot of people, women that do. And so, yeah, and I'm with Susan. Yeah, anything we can do here at Positive Impact, man, we all for it.
So that's basically what's needed. We just have to get out into the communities if we're able to. And youth are not very easy to spot. They're not. They don't trust, and so they're just not out in the opening. And you know, most of the times, how I've learned to spot them is, you know, they're walking around, they have a backpack, and they're looking like they don't have anywhere to go. And a lot of times they'll tell you that, oh no, I'm fine. I'm fine. But if you follow them long enough, you'll see. So I went out to a hotel in Stone Mountain because I actually have up here on my caseload that her 13-year-old special needs daughter with cerebral palsy and was put out in Stone Mountain in a hotel. And I went out there with my camera. I was told that I couldn't share that video. Yeah, I would be in some trouble, but I went out there and I was videoing, and I didn't know because it was other children in the video. But yeah, they were running around like nothing. I mean, they were just, it was hard. Yeah, it was heartbreaking because I was wondering to myself, how many of them are really in their room? How many of them are sneaking out, getting high, or using drugs? Anthony has his hand up. Hi, Anthony. Haley?
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. I'm Anthony, and I work in a group home setting. and been there for close to 10 years. And one of the biggest problems that we have encountered, we have no resources other than what DFACs offer. And a lot of these kids are leaving these homes or aging out, and they're in situations where they got nowhere to go. They're living on the streets. They're already using drugs already, or coming in, you know, when we do drug screens where they're high and stuff like that. And I'm kind of I feel at times in a sinking ship with no oars. And so I'm really interested in how to find out how to build these resources for these kids, because it's saddening, because a lot of them are either winding up in jail or dying because they're out there with no restraint, no, you know, we're trying to build structure and stuff like that, but we're kind of limited to a certain degree. And so, and a lot of it is due to the lack of resources. So I'm definitely glad that I heard this information, because I've been pondering and trying to figure out what happens to these kids when they leave here. We're hearing tragedies. You know, they're getting killed, they're getting in jail, or they just, you know, on this destructive pathway, and we can't stop it because we don't have anything to go. They leave.
So we have to think like ourselves. I mean, and when we were, you know, not in recovery, we didn't have any aspirations. We didn't have any hope. And some of us may have been adults when we started. I started using at 13. I didn't even see, I couldn't see being where I'm at today. I didn't see owning a home. Heck, I didn't even see having an apartment. You know, I didn't see that far. I couldn't see that far. So these youth, they're facing the same dilemmas, the same trauma. And then they're trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. So we need more caring, more compassionate people. We need more help from the state, not just taking children and putting them in the street, or taking them and putting them in hotels. Because once you put them in a hotel, they're most likely going to end up in the street. You know, and then we wonder why there's so much sex trafficking going on. Yeah. Let me move on to the next slide. I don't want to run out of time here. So this is just really a graph up until 2019, and these numbers have doubled over the trend. But what I also wanted to share, I'm going to go back to the last video, this one here. I wanted to share with you guys that some states are doing something. I'm going to tell you, Byron, Texas, Georgia, they put together a book. It's a pamphlet for their youth aging out of foster care. And I just want to read to you what it says. This is for children that have aged out of foster care that are now 18 years old. Congratulations. You are entering an exciting and uncertain time in your life. Being a young adult is not easy. And this can be especially true for former foster children. This information was put together specifically to help you get a new start on life as an adult, and to save you from having to learn things the hard and costly way. Exactly what it says. You may ask how we know your situation. What do we think you need to know? That's fair. We've spent many hours considering your possible needs and wants. What we know about you right now is that you are more mature than most people your age. You've gotten a harder start to life than the average teenager. And you might be used to being on your own and maybe not trusting a lot of people. What we believe you know about you is that you are smarter than most people your age. You learn quickly if we give you the basic information. Lots of people and organizations are here to help you. Don't be afraid to ask. And then it goes on to give them how to get your driver's license, your birth certificate, your social security card, and your food stamps. Byron, Texas. The pamphlet on the survival for a foster child aging out of the system onto the streets. I just wanted to share that. Any comments? Anybody got anything they want to add? It's so quiet. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, that's something better than nothing, I suppose.
Okay, so I know
Yeah.
this party is going on. It's about to
Right?
kick off.
I guess something's better than nothing, you know? I mean, I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a book, it's a pamphlet. I guess you
think
find a bench, sit down and read and learn how to go get your, yeah, it's very helpful. But I think much more is needed than that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It is a helpful, but I think you need to start that process before they age out.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, we do in jail.
Do it
Before you
back
leave
backwards,
prison.
right,
Before you leave prison, you go.
Right.
You see the counselor, whoever it is, and they make sure you got a place to go and you got your credentials. No. So Haley, is everybody going? Are y'all going to Neil's party already?
No, we're still here with you, Lisa.
Yeah. It's so deep. So yeah, that way, hey.
Amanda has her hand raised.
Amanda.
Slap in the face, that pamphlet right there. That's horrible. I mean, to me, like as you're reading it, I just think that's pathetic. Like that's horrible. Like that's all you get. Like I don't know. Sorry, that hurts me. That's it right there. Like that's it. Well, and it's probably a generic thing for every person. How freaking thoughtful. I'm sorry, I can get on a roller coaster, man. I have, and I do a lot of work with DFACS, and I have to, and actually today I was able to give a recovery champion award to a caseworker that is absolutely amazing. But I don't know, man. I can go rally all day. I'd rally all day. I have to be professional a lot because I work. I have to keep building relationships. But yeah, that to me, hearing that, like, that.
Yeah, I think Amanda, the most for
It's
everybody, the
like,
most disturbing part of this for me was the part where it says, "What we know about you."
Yes, that's what it said.
Right now,
It's
as
so
you're more
generic.
mature, you're talking to a child that's probably more than likely has PTSD, has been neglected, abused, forgotten, and then put through the foster care system. So that was a little bit disturbing for me. I mean, I appreciate you giving me resources, but I think I would have wanted those resources before I took my tail out into the street.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I agree. I can't speak on, I didn't grow up in foster care, but just, the work I do and my children and what I've been through with my, I just, yeah, I'm right there with you. That was sickening to me. I just, that's unfortunate. I hate it. I wish it would be different. I wish it could change. I know that we just got to keep fighting.
It will, because we will be those voices. We will be those voices. So I think I'm gonna, any more questions?
You have about 11 minutes, Lisa.
Anybody else want to talk about their
Christina
experience with
can't
foster
say.
care?
Yeah, Christina is in the chat.
She can't raise her hand, she said.
I didn't know how to raise my hand. I could do it last time I got on here and stuff updated or something. So I wasn't a foster child myself. My father was, so I'm the product of. And I know I grew up with both parents using, and it's really sad the demographics when you look at it, because I should, by all rights, should have been taken away from them. I mean, I'm grateful I wasn't, because the system is clearly just as bad, if not worse. But I know that I've had experiences with mine. I had a defects case for my second child, and I literally went into the defects office completely out of my mind. I had stuff in my purse, I had warrants. I was literally just that desperate, begging for some help. Like, I told the lady I didn't have insurance. I had been truly homeless for about 2 years. I didn't have a phone number. I had to walk up there. Like, it wasn't like I had any kind of resources myself, and I was begging for help. And I let her know, I was like, look, if it takes me telling you that I'm going to kill myself for me to get some help to stop so I can actually try to be there for my child, then that's what I'll do. And all they did was take me to the hospital, acted like I was going to kill myself, evaluated me, wrote me a letter of recommendation for a place that was like an hour away, and sent me on my way all in the same night. So, I mean, the system is broken. It's really, really sad. I might not have grown up in foster care, but I know when I was 18, if you would have handed me all that stuff and told me how smart I was, I literally would have laughed at you and turned around and walked right back to what I knew. Because at that point, one, no, you don't know me. And two, what the hell am I going to do with this stuff now? Like, what, like somebody else had already said, where were you years ago when I was going through the abuse, when I was getting, like, having parents that were using with me at 13 years old? Like, what good is this basic information going to do me at this point in my life when all the wreckage is already passed?
You're right, Christina. I mean, we have to take another look. Big ups to all everybody that in needle care, and that's in the defects, and that's in the courts, because we really do have to advocate, and we have to advocate hard and strong. I mean, the tiniest thing is like when we send out state legislators letters and emails, voicing our opinions. Let's make that an opinion. Let's make that, something that I know Georgia is working on changing that age. I know Jeff Bradlev and I said we're going to work on a bill for next year. We didn't get it in time this year, but for next year, Georgia should really be making, the changing the age of 18 an adult in the state of Georgia, and I know that that's being looked at right now, as well as Medicaid expansion. We need that. So, anybody else have anything they want to add?
I think we have to, I mean, I feel like for me is at some point, try to break the cycle, because I'm like you, there's over 15,000 kids right now in the state of Georgia in foster care. And if I don't advocate and try to make a voice or a change, and be a part of that change, then I know 10 years from now, if we can't get to the kids that are in the system now, because probably 60% of them, their parents were in the system, and it's gonna triple, and then it's gonna be like an epidemic. Because just in the last 3 years that I keep up with statistics, it's gone up almost 5,000 kids each year, because like no one's being a voice to the kids to try to get the kids, like you said, when they foster out, to find them, to get a hold of them, or while the kids are in the system, to try, so when they get out of the system, that it's not a repeated pattern. Because my fear is, in 5 to 7 years, that 15,000 is going to be 25,000 or 30,000 kids.
Oh,
it's just going to get worse
double that in Georgia
until until there's enough people standing up and trying to advocate to the kids that are in the system. It's just I see, like, through my job, I see 3 or 4 generations of people that have been in foster care, and that right there just makes my voice a little bit louder. Like, somebody has to break the chain. That's all I got.
Sandra, it's funny you should mention cycles. Oh no. Are you guys hearing that cough? I'm sorry. It's funny that you should mention the cycle, because it was just that with myself. You know, my mother and father were both on heroin, and then here I am. I'm smoking crack and going to jail. And my mother was a foster child. I didn't find that out until I was 23 years old. You know, that my mother was a foster child, and here I am a foster child. And so I saw that cycle. And that's the same cycle that society is seeing right now. And it's just repeating itself. I could barely breathe when I encountered the 18-year-old, and I've encountered more since then, because I don't know if anybody knows Chris 180, but they house youth. And just sitting there and listening to some of the youth, their story is it's traumatizing all over again for me, because and it's even harder for a male foster child. An African American male will suffer from PTSD far more than a female. And we all basically know, you know, females will marry off, you know, eventually something, you know, great might come along. But for African American male, it's devastating. It's devastating. And that's where you know, they lose trust, and then abuse comes in. These children are more likely to grow up to abuse their children, and the cycle it will just keep repeating itself. So if we could just find a way to be that voice, you know, whatever it is we're doing. And I know it's difficult. I've gotten told mind my business, but deep down inside, you know that they're wanting help. It's just the trust issues. And so in the work that I do today, I just meet people where they are, and we start from there. And if you're not ready, I'm here. I just make it known that I'm here, you know, because this kid he started smoking meth. I haven't heard from him in a few weeks. So I've given him a phone. He had a phone. So I don't know. But just when we encounter, we just have to spread that love and that concern, and build that trust, because the trust is important. And I think our RCOs that are doing the work know that the trust is what's critical here to helping our children. Otherwise, we will be facing a epidemic of homeless children addicted with substance use disorders.
Hello, I'm Charles from Georgia Pines, RCO, CARES 40. We are not really allowed to work with anybody under the age of 18. I'm just trying to see how I could get some literature into what you have, so that maybe we can find a way to do so. We do have the ACT team that goes into schools. But as far as us as an RCO, I'm with Recovery. We work with a lot of people, but they have to be 18 and older. And even with 18-year-olds, it's hard to get them in there to stay, because they're young, they're not ready yet, you know. They dealing with a lot of trauma coming straight out from one traumatic situation and jump out there in the streets, and it's even more traumatic, and they're running right now, most of those 18-year-olds. But in the event that we want to find a way to help some younger people, you got any suggestions on what we need to do?
I do, Charles. So you said you have an ACT team? You have an ACT team you work with?
Yeah, well, I don't work with them, but we have one that go to the schools. I work with Dixon Education and things of that nature. I do a lot of outreach work for Recovery. We work a lot with homelessness.
So you're out in the community?
Yeah, we are. We got a strong community, Ty.
Okay.
We do blanket drives. We do all kinds of things, and we have a great working relationship with stores and restaurants and you know.
Okay,
But
put out literature. Put out literature. You can, the ACT team can build the rapport, and you can put out the literature leading the teens to the ACT team.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
literature.
Yeah,
Flood the
we
community with literature, all kinds of literature.
okay. Cause we think about doing pop-up visits in different
And
spots.
and that too, because I mean, if you might not can't work with this a teen individually one-on-one, but I don't see why you can't do a pop-up with a community group event.
Mm. Yeah, that's what we talking about doing, going out doing a couple pop-ups.
That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
We just have to show up and be present. They don't have to flood to us and flock to us at the first time. But if you continue to show up and show up and show up and show up, you already know what it is. They're gonna come.
Yeah.
Now, I know for me, people kept coming to me telling me recovery, and I wasn't ready. But when I was, I showed up and they were there. So that's what it's really about, being there when they do show up, because we can't make anybody do anything.
True.
And youth are hard. They're really hard. But if they see you in the community and you steady shouting, youth, 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 I see you, I want to help you, I care about you, I love you, eventually they will. And if you just grab one, if you only get one,
Yeah.
that can still have a trickle effect. It can still have a trickle effect, because then they say, hey, where's Marquise? Marquise, man, he got da da da. Oh man, how do you do that? You know that group that come around? So yeah, just be present and keep showing up. Same thing we did for our recovery. We fought.
Okay.
And now we keep showing up.
And one other thing you said earlier that when I was listening to you about back in the day, it was Ritalin. They were giving the kids, and they were high, they were non-functional, and they would give them to them because they wanted peace. So
and Thorazine.
Yeah,
and Thorazine.
Yeah,
My little brother was
Thorazine.
on Thorazine.
And they would dope the children up. But with the real young was the Ritalin. Thorazine was for the older guys and stuff.
Mhm.
But that Ritalin would say, hey, you go and sit over there and go to sleep or do something so I can party. I do whatever I'm going to do. So they be addicted early in life.
Yeah.
Think about
No,
it.
I know. I remember my foster mother taking me. This day she took me to go get my IQ tested, and I scored, I guess, really high on it, because I know she beat the mess out of me. The next day I was down at in Manhattan. They got a Chuck full of nut restaurant, and then right next to it's the courthouse. And I met the social worker there. The next thing I know, I was at a psychiatrist's office, and from that day forward, I was taking Librium. And they was born. There was a little yellow liquid. Every morning she was giving it to me, and I knew by the time I got to school, I didn't know what the heck was going on. Out of time.
Yes, we are. Unfortunately, y'all, we are out of time. This has been an amazing webinar, Lisa. Thank you so much. And thank you all so much for coming this evening and participating and sharing your experiences and what you are each doing in the community. I would suggest, if y'all want to get in touch with Lisa, is there a certain email you would like to be able to drop in the chat?
Yes.
So I can drop it in there for you. Which one would you like me to do?
Lisa Tall at bellsouth.net.
That way, if y'all want to reach out to Lisa and have some more conversations about this, you are able to do that. And just as a reminder, as long as you were here for the entire 1.5 hours from 5 to 6:30 p.m., you will be receiving a webinar certificate, a CEU certificate by the end of next week, coming from Al Cotton.
Okay.
And I just want to say one more thing.
Will her information be on it too?
You can email me, but I may not be able to respond until next week, because I'm in Baltimore at a homeless conference. So I'll be back Monday to Georgia, and I can't wait.
And Lisa, I'll include your email when I send out the certificate, so people will be able to reach you through that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. This is
that was
Courtney.
great.
Thank
Thank
you.
Hey,
Okay,
Lisa,
good night,
you working
everybody.
with the homeless
Have a
up
good
there?
night, everyone. We got to run. The meeting's ending now.